This episode of Warp 5 is brought to you by Audible.com, offering more than 150,000 titles for your smartphone, tablet, or desktop. To get a free audiobook of your choice, visit audibletrial.com/TrekFM. Also, help us keep Star Trek discussion coming to you each day by becoming a Trek FM patron through Patreon. Get access to exclusive content and become part of the team. You'll find all the details at patreon.com/TrekFM. That's patreon.com/TrekFM.
Hi, I'm Anthony Montgomery, Ensign Travis Mayweather on Star Trek Enterprise, and you're listening to Trek FM.
How we doing, Trip? Ready when you are. Prepare for warp.
Course laid in, sir. Request permission to get underway.
Let's go.
Welcome, Boomers, to another episode of Warp 5, Trek FM's dedicated Enterprise show. I'm your host, Floyd Dorsey, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Jeffrey Harlan, a.k.a. Mr. Atoz. Hey, Jeff, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, but I'm getting a little bit too much attention when I travel back and forth in time these days. I'm starting to get some Tholians chasing after me.
Uh-oh. Any Suliban in your rear view? You see any?
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay. Well, Tholians, yeah. We need to maybe steer clear of those guys anyway. They're
no joke, and it kind of hurts my ears.
Exactly. You can't tell if they're talking nice or if they're griping at you. You can't really tell. It's just, it all sounds the same. Also, Boomers, our guest for this show is new to Warp 5, but we've been discussing having him on since December of last year. And it's been going on and on and on. Seriously, it has been since December. But we finally have got it going here. Today, we're going to welcome the host of Melodic Treks, Trek FM's show dedicated to the music of Trek. Of course, I'm talking about Mr. Brandon-Shea Mutala. Welcome aboard, Brandon.
Hello there, Floyd Dorsey and Jeffrey Harlan. Oh, my. That just killed my throat. That was my Tholian impression. Oh, my goodness. Anyways.
Wow.
Hi, how's it going?
Wow. I was not expecting that. That's a good one. Yes. So, wow. Okay. That's going to be hard to follow up on. So, hey, Brandon, tell us a little bit about your Enterprise fandom. I mean, we've heard you on Melodic Treks, and we've actually been talking since December, or maybe even before that, about coming on Warp 5, talking about Enterprise. So when did you start getting into Enterprise, and just tell us a little bit about your fandom?
Well, I watched Enterprise when it first ran, like the whole way, all 4 seasons. And I enjoyed it. It was Star Trek. But I really think I was suffering at the time of the franchise fatigue that people talk about. And so I bought the DVDs when they came out, and I watched them once again, and that was it. So season 4 came out on DVD back in 2005, I think it was. And honestly, that was the last time that I watched Enterprise. And because of the 50th anniversary rewatch project that we're doing here on Trek FM, I actually have watched Enterprise again for the first time in 10 years, and I really, really enjoyed it this time. Maybe it was because I was watching it fresh, but I haven't even watched like Next Generation in about a decade, or the original series in about a decade, because after Enterprise went off the air, my fandom just kind of died. There was no Star Trek there to keep it going, so it just kind of went by the wayside. So I discovered Trek FM last July, and with this rewatch, the first thing that I started watching all the way through again was Enterprise, and it was a real joy. And I found a lot to love in this series once again. So yeah, it's definitely in there. It's not my least favorite series, but D Space Nine's my favorite for sure, and Enterprise. Enterprise is definitely in my. I'd say it's probably my 4th favorite of the series. So
nice. Okay. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, and I've been looking forward to doing this commentary as well. I was a little confused at first when we decided to do this. I mean, I don't know why you wanted to do this Deep Space Nine two-parter, but I mean, I love Deep Space Nine, and this episode when Sisko goes back in time to the Bell Riots it's a good one. I like it.
Wait a minute. Let's make sure that we've got it on the right spot here. I've got my Enterprise Blu-ray in. So you might want to, you might want to check your file there and make sure you're straightened out. Okay.
I thought we were doing the commentary for past tense.
Well, actually, we're going to be doing future tense.
Oh no.
Sounds like a grammar lesson, but it's not.
Oh goodness. Okay, give me a second to switch out my disc here. I had my season 3 of Deep Space Nine queued right up here, but I can just fix that quick here.
Yep, no problem. So yeah, boomers, for today's show, we're actually going to try something new. An episode commentary. So I look back and I have listened to all of the Warp 5 episodes, and I didn't see that Warp 5 has ever done a commentary before. The commentaries are popular on other Trek FM shows, going down like To the Journey has done them, Earl Grey, Standard Orbit, and the Orb. So the way I was looking at it is Warp 5 is the only one that hasn't gotten into the game yet. So we're going to get right into the game this time. So listeners, you don't have to watch the episode to listen to the show. Some of you may want to pause and get your DVDs or your Blu-rays or your Netflix or however you've got it streaming maybe so you can follow along. But if you're like me, you'll probably listen to it in the car or maybe at work or something like that. So what we're hoping we can give you the commentary through it so you don't have to watch it if you've watched it recently. So what the rules are going to be is I'll say 3, 2, 1, play, and on play or by clicks, and we'll get this thing started. So 3, 2, 1, play.
It looks almost like a torpedo.
It's an interesting open for this episode because they're there already and like nothing has happened. You know, so like we don't know what's going in. We're just jumping right into the scene. Here's the ship. We don't really know what it is or what's going on.
I know it's a really hard, cold open. Like I was kind of thrown back a little bit when I watched it again this morning.
Yeah, and it doesn't even really look like the traditional ships that we see on the show.
Yeah, it's round. It's like a torpedo. You got it. So I actually proposed this idea to you guys because this is my favorite episode of Enterprise. I love this episode a lot, and I'll go through a couple of the things in it. But to me, this episode screams prequel, and there's just so many things in it that I love that make me think of other Star Treks and other Star Trek stuff, especially in the original series. But I really love this episode a lot.
And it also dovetails into the temporal Cold War really nicely.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
I'd read on Facebook where someone mentioned that this ship reminded them of something from another sci-fi series, but I can't recall what that was.
I don't know. Sequest.
Maybe.
It's like the subs.
Possibly. So here we go. We've got Captain Kaboom over here getting his phaser. Don't wait on the engineers with a blowtorch. Let's just get right in here. Okay.
Yeah, definitely a ship that the name is some acronym of some sort.
Right.
Like a DSRV or something like that.
I hope that wasn't a gas tank because, man, that would not be cool. This is the first time he's ever seen this, seriously.
See, I work in a steel mill, and I've worked in different plants, right? And so we're very strong about safety and whatnot. And it's like they're just opening this ship, right? And it's like they've got no protective equipment, no gas filter on their face. Like, what if there's like some nauseous gas inside of there, right? They can't scan in.
It's like shades of Guy Fleegman.
Right. I mean, you can actually see the stuff. There's something coming out of there. It smells bad. That's something you shouldn't probably be breathing. I'm just, can we get at least jump in there? Can we at least get a Spock shower curtain suit?
Yeah, like it's all foggy in there. Like this is like what happened to this guy? Like this thing exploded inside, right? Like he's breathing in burnt people.
And we're checking this out.
And the burnt person in question.
I kind of like the effect though with the fogginess, the smokiness. Kind of gives us the.
I like that little zoom in.
Yeah,
a little zoom into the face is great.
We got some haunted house effect going here.
See, the first time I watched it, when she says he's human, I never really understood the relevance of it. They talk about it later where it's like, hey, now this is the farthest that any human's ever been, right? Yep. So it's kind of neat. I didn't catch it the first time.
There's the mummy poster. Boris Karloff.
Mm-hmm.
Are we going to sing? It's been a long road, getting from there to here.
So yeah, like right now during the credits, just serious, like you said earlier about the prequelness of it. It's such a prequel that they haven't thought about biological agents, possibly in the air on here. At least Spock wore a shower curtain. I mean, you could scratch your nose under it, but at least he was wearing that thing. This was a chance we could have.
Yeah, that darn Tormolin.
Right.
So while this theme is playing, I'm going to pipe my own show here. So Melodic Treks episode 37. It's actually called Faith of the Heart, and I actually did a short episode, and I played 6 different versions of the Faith of the Heart song. So there's the 2 versions that you hear in the show, the season 1 and 2 and the season 3 and 4. There was a Dennis McCarthy instrumental version for some end credits from the first episode. And then I played the Rod Stewart version, and then I can't remember the names off the top of my head, but there's 2 different versions by women that were sung in it. So I just play all of them, and it's kind of a neat little episode, and I got a lot of downloads from it.
Yeah, I knew about the first 4 before that episode, but I didn't know about the last 2.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta tell you, that opening sequence, it goes with that song. If you'll just stop and listen to the words, that's an awesome sequence.
Tell us his age at the time of death. Apparently, you are not the first.
I just watched Distant Voices from Deep Space Nine. He looks like old Julian Bashir.
We got a cameo and didn't know it. Okay.
This is Julian Bashir from the future.
Oh, I hadn't noticed the lighting before, the darker lighting. That's an unusual autopsy. Is it? I would assume they'd want all the lights on in the room.
There aren't any ships aboard.
But then it's not spooky.
That's true. I just noticed that. I've watched this I don't know how many times. I just now noticed that. Kind of going along with the haunted house theme.
Must be ship's night. They dim the lights.
So this right here is my first reference why this screams prequel to me. When they say Zefram Cochrane, what's the first thing you 2 think about?
Oh, the original series.
Metamorphosis.
Yeah, Metamorphosis. Yeah. Bam. Instantly, right in my head is Metamorphosis when I hear that. And so I love it. It puts a smile on my face every time I think about that. I don't think about First Contact when I think about Zefram Cochrane. I think about Metamorphosis.
Yeah, I'm thinking, nope, you got that one wrong because we know where he ends up.
But it's just with one word, one name like that, it just conjures up a whole episode of the original series. And so that's what I think the prequels should be doing, and that's what this show should be doing throughout its whole run.
Exactly.
I don't see how he could have made it out this far.
Well, that's interesting.
There were a bunch of mysteries from the original series that didn't get solved until Kirk's time. They could have set them up in the show.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
They could have set up. They do in the books a little bit, right? But the Operation Annihilate, what's Deneva and those pancake things, they could have done that. There's so much they could have done. Yeah.
They're trying to figure out how it goes.
Yeah.
Maybe it was a torpedo.
Another one that was a really subtle one that they set up was Piece of the Action, because when Travis visited the Horizon, he had the book in his quarters.
Yep, you got it.
It's possible the ship you found was launched from Vega Colony, but they're a long way behind.
I didn't notice that for a few viewings. It was a while before I noticed that.
And they picked that up again in the books, too.
Yeah. The wonderful Vaughn Armstrong, man of a million faces on Star Trek.
Yeah, once had a few drinks with him at Quark's at Las Vegas.
Oh, nice.
Cool.
Yeah.
I wonder...
I'd just come back from Iraq. It was I was at the convention, and he was down at the bar.
So, Vaughn Armstrong making an appearance on the view screen. I wonder if you get paid the same if you're an actor and you only appear on the view screen.
Probably.
Well, he's still acting.
I asked...
I'm just kidding.
What's the guy's name that played Shran?
Jeffrey Combs.
Jeffrey Combs. He got paid double for that Deep Space Nine episode where he was Brunt and Weyoun in the same episode.
Oh, nice. All right.
Yeah, now imagine Brent Spiner in the one episode where he was 3 characters in one.
Okay.
I think he only got paid 1, though.
I like this. I like we're digging in. We're finding some organic circuitry. So we're looking at Voyager, getting our head of that bioneural gel packs. It's just an odd place to have it.
Another good reference, yeah.
Oh, right. It's kind of an odd place to have it, though, knowing what's underneath it.
I think of Alien when I think of this. When the doctor on Alien dies and they got those weird tubing and that weird milky colored liquid. I don't know. That's what I think of when I see that. But
it couldn't be permanent because look what's underneath it.
Yeah, the TARDIS.
Malcolm? I see it. Good. I'm not hallucinating.
And
How can a ship be bigger on the inside than the outside?
Not expecting
Could be a hologram.
I wasn't either, and then I was very interested to see where this was going at this point, because even at this point, I think there were already rumors about possible Doctor Who crossover.
Yep, and this
really?
this was before the Doctor Who relaunched.
Yeah, but at this point, I think there were rumors that they were going to start working on it.
And of course, on Warp 588, we brought it in. And with that,
I never watched Doctor Who. I've seen a few of the season 1, like back in the Doctor #1, but that's all that I've seen.
he's got to go get his spanner back.
The modern show is very different.
Yeah, I hear it is. Yeah.
So I got to tell you, being a Star Trek geek, he says, "Hand me that hypospanner," and then I'm sitting there trying to put down what hypo spanner, what it is and what it would do, and you couldn't have just dropped a screwdriver. You got to drop the hypospanner, which it looks like a bar, basically. This is nice.
Like, look at all this burning. Like, there was clearly some type of explosion on this ship, right?
Is it burning? Because I always saw it as like an organic.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, to me it looks like burnt. Like the
It
inside
looks
of the
like
ship
an
is burnt.
explosion.
That is true. That
Yeah.
is true. Like fire, like burned. Like maybe it could have started here, maybe.
What do you think? A warp reactor? Yo, the engineer.
So how many decks did they go down? Did they go 79 decks?
A breach.
The only ship that has 79 decks is the Enterprise A.
And that is
And that's only if you go up.
and that's a reference to Star Trek 5, right?
Sir, a vessel's dropped out of warp. They're on an intercept course.
It's Suliban.
Kind of ancient Egypt going here a little bit. We're getting into the tomb that hasn't been opened in apparently a long time.
You got some of that with the dust and smoke coming out too.
And the mummy, the Boris Karloff knockoff. I wonder if Paramount asked Universal if they could do that.
You have something that belongs to us.
This ship just looks bad to the bone. I mean, you don't have to tell me what it is. It just looks... I don't know if it's Suliban or what. It just looks bad to the bone flying in here, though.
Looks like a radiator.
That ship's an Earth vessel. The pilot's human.
I'm not interested in the corpse. Decompress your launch bay and release the vessel.
But I wonder why they wouldn't have used John Shuck's character?
Silic.
Silic. I wonder why they wouldn't have used Silic in this episode.
Yeah, that was Fleck. Yeah.
Now.
They're charging weapons.
You might want to contact your superiors. Ask for a man named Silic.
It's kind of cool, though, if they bring in another, it kind of widens out the...
They name dropped him at least.
Such a neat skin tone on those aliens. It's like a sandpaper or something,
Mm-hmm.
Now this, to me, I don't know if you guys see it yet, but this looks like an orb. That door looks like one of the boxes for the orbs.
Yep. It does look kind of like that Bajoran shape to it.
Valhalla.
It's got little bits of everything from
Yeah.
this future Star Trek. Kind of like, they've taken the design elements from everybody and incorporated it into one thing.
Nice. But, that kind of comes back around, not to hit any spoilers yet, but that does come around later.
Forward plating is holding.
Bring us about, Travis. Power the phase cannons. See what you can do about their weapons.
So what does the plating do? Is it... I never quite understood that. What is there when they put the plating on the hull plating?
From what I understand, basically when they put a current through it, the molecules realign and it makes the metal harder, so it takes more hits to penetrate the metal.
Nice. The guy jumps off the ceiling. I looked at my boys today when they were watching that, and they thought that was like their eyes got really big when the guy comes out of appears.
Someone's trying to open Launch Bay 2.
Lock them out.
Yeah, these phasers, they can't break glass. That's some tough glass.
Oh, come on.
Transparent aluminum was invented in 1986, apparently.
Send a security team down there. Return fire.
Not now, Madeline.
And according to the books, he was later on the project for the DY series ships.
And bring the grappler online.
Sir?
They wanted that ship pretty badly. I'd like to know why.
So I rewound this a few times, and they depressurized to get the ship out.
But they didn't succeed, I guess.
Yeah, they were trying to depressurize the bay so that they could open up the doors.
But everybody's still there. I mean, we didn't get the effect of the depressurize. I was trying to figure out how they got it out, because I hadn't caught that until today about how they didn't get it out. By the way, Hoshi locked them out. Sir, I can't. They got to work on that. Okay, I mean, we're going to give Enterprise a break on this, but they can't get it done in original series. They can't get it done in TNG. They can't get it done in Voyager, Deep Space Nine. We got to work on that lockout system.
Hopefully, we won't have another visit from the Suliban before we reach the rendezvous point.
It was heavily shielded. Whatever this thing is, it must be pretty important.
What's your guess?
Might be the black box.
It could tell us what happened.
So we're asking the Vulcans for help.
Archer didn't like doing that. He doesn't like to ask for help from the Vulcans.
From anyone, really.
You're not going to believe your eyes.
Bigger on the inside.
Sick paid, Captain Archer.
Archer.
To have taken this thing apart, man, it could be a bomb. It could be an alarm clock.
I managed to find only a few.
Who cares? We shot the door open with a phaser, right? A phase pistol. Sorry.
It's full of stolen music from Napster.
Starfleet database.
Oh, but I did discover that our guest is no ordinary human. I found an unusual deviation in this nucleotide sequence.
So here we go, human Vulcan hybrid. Bang! Instantly, as soon as you hear that, you think Spock.
The chromosome structure. So I widened my search to include the interspecies database. This nucleotide sequence is Vulcan.
Clearly from the future.
See, it's interesting that they say that. They're like, because Archer's like, how is it possible to have a human Vulcan hybrid? We haven't known the Vulcans that long, right? And so us as an audience, we immediately assume this thing is from the future, right?
Yeah.
As soon as we hear something like that, but
at
it's
the same
good that
time,
they write that.
Yeah. At the same time, though, we've had in contact with the Vulcans for 100 years. Maybe it's just nobody knew.
Well, he said it's longer than a great grandfather.
Yeah.
Like for the DNA, it's.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
So he's like, we haven't known him that long, and
yeah.
So, but instantly, again, you think instantly of Spock, human Vulcan hybrid, right?
And then he mentions about how it's all kinds of stuff, even things he can't identify yet. So several generations.
Maybe Cardassian.
I'm kind of interested how that lock works. I mean, they just kind of stick it on the door handle, but what's stopping them from prying the door open?
And he slides it open like a, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a sliding door, and it doesn't seem to prevent the door from sliding.
I love the end of that episode, though. We talked about that already when they stopped the end of the episode by putting the lock on the door. That was pretty awesome.
That was a great shot, too.
A Vulcan cruiser.
Okay, what can we see in here from the future in this crazy map thing?
Vulcan ship with 3 rings for warp drive.
That's cool.
Few Vulcans have ever chosen to mate with another species.
Worried about
I was hoping to see something like, the Enterprise D or something like that just scroll by. I think it would be funny.
Biological differences between the species. It's unlikely we could reproduce.
At this point, they could have even thrown the E in there.
What do you guys think of the Enterprise J? I'm not a big fan of it.
I'm not too crazy. But, I mean...
That could be it.
That was also a potential alternate future, so it might not have even happened in the regular timeline.
I think the Star Trek Starships is going to be releasing a model of the Enterprise J.
Yeah, I saw a photo of it.
So this is funny when they're scrolling this, because, man, they need a better search feature.
There.
Like a find or something.
I think that's it.
Because we could be looking here for a long...
Yeah, I'm seeing like Klingon Raptor about 4 or 5 times now.
That's like me searching on the Babel conference for something. I'm like just scrolling, trying to find something.
Yes, I thought this seemed familiar.
A Romulan scout ship and a Klingon transport.
People who traveled back to study the past. That could be what this pilot was doing.
So, historians from the future, have you guys ever thought about the possibility about those guys from Captain's Holiday as being a part of the temporal Cold War?
Maybe learn how the engine...
Because they were from the future.
They might not be part of the temporal Cold War directly, but I mean, they could be tangentially involved.
They were like 27th century or something, weren't they?
Something like that, yeah. I do know that Star Trek Online has tied them into the whole temporal Cold War story.
Oh, have they? Yeah, I don't play that. I haven't checked that out.
Suliban?
No, sir. We can't identify them.
Yeah, basically the Toxu Tot was used by the Tholians to destroy the Nakul's homeworld.
Okay.
And they're the species from Vosk that went back in season 4.
Man, the voice that they used for this, like, it sounds so similar to the one from the Tholian web, but it's different enough, you know. But that squealing that's on there, oh man, like, these sound so cool.
I gotta tell you, I made that same sound when I saw the Tholians the first time. When I saw this in first run, I was squealing like, "What? Look how amazing that ship looks!"
When the head pops up on the screen in a minute here, it's just awesome.
This is Captain Archer of the Starship.
Yeah, there's so, like, you're not expecting it, you know. Like, when I was watching this for my rewatch back in January, and they're like Tholians, I'm like I just sat up in my chair like, whoa. And I've seen this episode a couple of times, but I forgot that they were in it. It's just, you're not expecting them because they're just out of nowhere, you know.
And then the Tholians play a huge part in the Vanguard series, the original series Vanguard book series. Oh man, knowing what you know that after that, and now watching it here, very cool.
And then what we get to see of them in A Mirror Darkly.
Exactly.
And that also ties back into the books because the way that they were described in the Lost Era novel, The Sundered, is almost exactly how they appeared on screen.
Or I'll destroy the ship in our launch bay.
Except in that book, they were described as having tails.
Yeah. Because in the Tholian web, you only see just a little bit of the face, right? And it's I never caught that it was supposed to be hot when I watched that until I read the books and they described it as a hot atmosphere. And that was prior to watching Enterprise back in 2003 or whatever this was, right? But because you just see this weird blue and red colors on the screen when that Tholian is talking to Kirk.
I didn't catch it that it was hot. I thought it was just poor reception, you know, or just they didn't match that well when I watched it. Of course, when I watched original series, it was on a black and white cabinet TV, you know, like old school, and we actually had an aerial, so it could have really been static.
May I join you?
Please.
Man, that's...
I found another nucleotide sequence in the pilot's genome.
That shot, we just missed, we were talking about that, but that overhead shot of the Enterprise, like, there's a lot of great shots of the Enterprise from above in this series.
Absolutely agree.
They really started to expand what they did with the camera angles for outside the ships.
You seem to be engrossed in your work.
Phlox is my favorite character.
Yep, I like Phlox.
Asked me to perform a
I like this scene where he's eating and she's being annoyed. They could do this. They do this several episodes throughout the whole series, but I love the banter.
More mysteries.
Of course, the first time he actually takes food off of her fork or off of her plate and eats it, when we got to see that. So knowing that she probably covers her plate every time now she eats with Phlox.
Genetic anomalies, unexplainable alloys, the evidence seems to be mounting.
Perhaps.
The Vulcan science.
So you had posted something the other day there, Jeff, about some time travel thing where some scientists sent a light beam back into the past or something. I got to say that I'm definitely with the Vulcan science director that I really don't think time travel is possible.
Well, it could follow the quantum model that was used in the 2009 Star Trek film where by going back in time you create a new timeline. So, if you're in the prime timeline where everybody's leaving from, you're never going to see the effects in your own past.
So Phlox is here using Denoblians like we would humans, where we thought we were the only thing in the universe.
Are you saying you believe time travel is possible?
Surprises.
And, of course, we had to change what we were thinking.
I believe in embracing surprises.
I prefer to embrace logic.
kind of calls back to the first episode, too, where Phlox was telling Archer, if you want to embrace new worlds, you need to embrace new ideals, and she's talking about embracing logic.
Right.
And she's, like, shutting herself off from everything else.
Assuming that is the power grid. That boggles the mind if you think about it.
Engine.
Oh, it does. That ship could be from the 31st century.
At the very least, they cleaned that thing up after they took it out of the ship. It's kind of shiny now.
You're probably the kind of person that jumps to the end of the book.
Well, when they opened the door, it was shiny in there, right? When they took it out, because it was behind a door.
The outside of the casing looks shinier than it did in that original shot.
If Daniels came here and offered you a chance to go to the 31st century, you wouldn't take it?
Was it like a Kindle in his hand?
I'm not sure how they have accomplished that effect.
Things are better left to mystery.
I think it was just like a little gel with a light behind it. But, I mean, it's about the same size.
Hand me that micro caliper.
Get her technobabble micro caliper.
Well, I gotta tell you, if this is a micro caliber, I'd hate to see the big version. You know, the un-micro
yeah, that's
caliber.
pretty big for a micro.
Absolutely.
I'm sure a dentist used one of that to pull my wisdom teeth.
I'm just gonna use the micro caliber instead of the big version. You know.
So one day you meet Jane Doe.
Yeah. Then you got the regular just caliper, and then the macro caliper. My goodness.
How many times do I have to tell you? The right tool for the right job.
Did you marry her for love? Because some book told you to.
If we're happily ever after, what difference does it make?
It's an interesting idea here. Like, if you read this book, what would you do? You know, like, are you doing it because you want to or because you were told to?
We've got power.
I like this interaction.
Talking
This is
about
nice. This is
predestination paradoxes there.
Their friendship did evolve very well. Like, it kind of felt forced in Shuttlepod 1, but it did evolve quite well. I don't think it ever hit the heights of Bashir and O'Brien, right? I think that's what they were trying to go for, was a Bashir-O'Brien pairing. But it definitely, in this episode quite a bit, you can feel that friendship. Now for the mind bleepery.
Was an herbivore.
This, when I remember seeing this for the first time, when this happened, I'm just like, what? What just happened?
Yeah, when I first saw this, I thought that the station had a glitch in their file that they were playing from or something.
Okay, so I got to ask this question now to see what you think. So, watching this episode, and every time I watch it, I always assume that opening that plate is what causes the time thing. But later on, when Archer and Reed are working on that torpedo, they're nowhere near it. So what do you think is causing this time repeat in here? So the only other thing I could compare it to is, so this is going to be spoilers for 11/22/63, but in 11/22/63, the past kind of fights back, and it doesn't want you to change the past. Now, so this is not quite like that, but I'm almost thinking like the ship knows that they're about to do something that it doesn't want them to do, so the ship creates this temporal loop to try and prevent them from doing it.
Okay, yours is a way bigger sci-fi idea than I had. I was just thinking that it was just a faulty whatever. What do you think it is, Jeff?
Well, I see a couple of ways of explaining this. It could be that opening that panel released the radiation that caused the later problems, and it just accumulated over time.
Okay.
Or, like you were saying, the ship is kind of self-aware because it's got the bioneural circuits, and there is a history of artificial intelligence in Star Trek universe prior to when this ship comes from.
Yeah, because later on they don't open that door, but they're trying to put that warhead in the inside of it to blow it up. Mm-hmm. So it's like, no, I don't want them to do that to me. So maybe it's the ship that's creating it somehow.
That's very possible. Yes.
The radiation could have affected your perception of time.
Or maybe they really were reliving the same moment.
Hope there's no lasting effects. That would
evacuate the surrounding sections. I don't want to take any
that would be quite annoying.
How are you coming with the black box?
The power's online, but we still can't access the data.
Let me know as soon as you find anything. Dismissed.
Can I speak with you?
I never had an issue with the technology being more advanced than the original series with all the LCDs on the wall and stuff. It's such a neat look for the show. I like it a lot.
It grounds it, because, I mean, that's what we would have. And it makes it closer to what we would have now.
I'm not certain we'll survive that long.
I don't, we tried to talk about that with the inconsistencies with the original series, and man, the original series makes it difficult sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And the books had a really interesting explanation for it too.
Yes, they did. That's for sure. So it came back to the Romulan ships being able to control them, and so they downgraded their technology so that they weren't able to be controlled by the Romulans.
It was very similar to the reboot Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah, exactly.
How they went back so that their network systems couldn't be hacked.
So watch Jonathan Archer's head dodging maneuvers he's got here, man. This guy's got skills. He's hit his head a few times in here, I'm sure. You see how he knows exactly where that thing is? Like to pace in his office, you better know where the beams are. Okay? I love this. I love that they've got us cramped over here on the edge of the saucer section. That's why we've got a window. But man, you better duck down. Like how tall is this guy? Because if he's over 6 feet, you're in trouble.
T'Pol looks way better in season 3 when they just arch her eyebrows up.
I recommend we go to tactical alert.
Let her have her own hair. I think this might be her own hair right here. Boy, that is.
But just the fact that she's got her normal eyebrows and they don't arch up, it doesn't look right.
That's true. They didn't get her in a uniform, but at least they kind of let her have some other things to soften her up.
It's in a black box. We thought it was a data storage matrix, but after we got the power running, it started generating a subspace signature. I think it's a microtransmitter.
There's so many great angles that they use in this show because it's so tight, They have the camera that moves around quite a bit, follows them through these tight corridors.
On my way.
Acknowledged.
It's a really great set, too.
Oh, man, the details on this is just amazing. It was meant to be shot in high def. It is shot in high def. The labels on every panel, it's art.
And unlike Next Generation, the labels actually say something that's real. And not quotes from Gilligan's Island or Buckaroo Banzai.
They're matching our speed.
And we never find out in this episode, but it's like, what do these people want in this ship? And I'm okay with the fact that we never find out. But it's like, wow, what is it in here that all these people want, and how did they find out?
That's what I was thinking. How does everyone know about it? And they just kind of stumble across it again, kind of like stumbling into trouble.
Well, we know the Suliban are working for a faction from the future, and you can imagine that they would want to level the playing field and maybe have a little bit more of a say in what's going on with them. So this ship might give them that ability. And then the Tholians apparently seem to be interested in time travel. And that's followed up in Season 4 with the Mirror Universe two-parter. Because the Tholians they're playing with dimensional rifts and that also travel through time. And so they bring the Defiant back from the future of the Prime timeline into the Mirror Universe. And again, for the same reason, they're trying to get advanced technology that they can use.
We're losing ventral plating.
The Vulcans.
600,000 kilometers.
We're seeing the typical we're outgunned. We're trying to outrun them to our big brother, the Vulcans. We got them hot on our tail here. This happens a few times.
200,000 kilometers.
Take us out of war.
Those little, I don't know, hexagon-like ships, those Suliban ships are neat.
They actually blew one of them up. I thought those are really tough, the cell ships. That's what they've mentioned.
That's a great shot coming up on that destroyed Vulcan ship.
Yep, letting the air out of the sail there, I would say.
Like, what's going on here? And then whoosh, all those Tholian ships just come up from behind.
Captain.
I've got the Tholian ship from the Star Trek Starships collection.
Yeah, I love that. It's really good. That Eagle Moss collection is just some incredible detail on those ships.
And they're a sponsor for our Ready Room show right now.
That's true, yeah.
And then so the Tholians are attacking them on one side. The Suliban are coming from the other side. They kill their warp field so they stop, and then the Suliban and the Tholians just start fighting each other. And it's like, oh my goodness. This episode is awesome.
Talk about feeling helpless though. You're just sitting there and can't do anything, can't get away, can't do anything. But you're so not important that they're just fighting all around you, and all you can do is just sit and wait for the winner to come, finish you off. Oh, that would be so frustrating.
Every power relay on the ship's been scrambled.
Then forget everything else. Get that beacon working.
Sir?
Whoever built that ship might be able to send help.
Hi, Captain.
Whatever the Tholians have, we've got to figure out a defense for that.
So I'm going to jump a little bit ahead in this episode here because it might take a little bit for us to talk about this. So Trip activates this device, right? And within a minute, everything, like the ship is gone, it's taken away. And at the end of the episode, he's talking about how, how did it happen so quickly? And Archer says, well, time doesn't matter to these people. They could have done it at any time. The way that the ship disappears, do you think that they took it from this time or a previous time? And then, so did they go back farther and get the ship before they got it, and so now it's wiped it from this timeline? Or do you think they just took it from now?
Wow, I have not even thought about that, because they could have taken it from a past, and then boom, it's out of this timeline. It just erases itself. I had not have thought of that. I would say that they're taking it from this timeline though, because they don't all disappear at the same time. I guess they could be disappearing all at the same time. We're just, the way we're seeing it and we're experiencing is in sequential order, but this could all be happening at exactly the same time.
I think it's more that they are taking it from this point in the timeline rather than earlier, because that would have eliminated the entire chain of events of this episode. It would have been a literal reset button on the episode. But, then from their perspective, they wouldn't get the signal to rescue the pod in the first place if this chain of events didn't play out. So then that would have caused a paradox.
Star Trek never does paradoxes.
Hey, I've got to tell you right there.
So here we go.
Got Archer pulling his communicator out of his sleeve like a boss. Let me see Kirk try that. Yep. Let's see Cisco pull that one. All right.
Spock had some pretty sweet moves with pulling out the technology, though.
That is true.
So here they are. So they're going through now. Reed and Archer are going through this repeat, and we learn here now, because everything's going on, that this repeat is also isolated to this room that they're in, and the time repeat is not happening anywhere else. That's just not a mind bleepery of its own right there. How can you just have one pocket of time repeating itself?
Well, that kind of ties in with Einstein talking about gravity affects time. So you could have time flowing in one speed in one spot and another speed in another spot.
That's way
close
too
to a black hole. How the time slows down.
And then you factor in, tachyons, and who knows what they can do.
I have a repair team working on it, but they estimate it will take...
I don't know, but they dress very tacky.
I was expecting the field to be, I was expecting it to get bigger. So just imagine what it would look like if the ship was completely engulfed. What would that look like from the outside of the ship? If the whole entire ship keeps reliving a moment over and over.
I'll take it from here. All right, Captain.
Did Brandon Braga write this one? No, he didn't.
I'm going to hold you to that 4 minutes.
That's only an estimate, sir.
Imagine how frustrating that'd be. He's like, okay, we're almost done. Reset.
Oh.
Let's hope we've got it down by now.
How many times do you think we've done this?
It is interesting that they do retain some memory from the previous loops.
Getting really good at this.
It's kind of like the Next Generation episode Cause and Effect, where they were retaining memory.
Man, that's my favorite security guard right there.
So is this a Tholian coming in here, you think? That's a Tholian trying to break in, right?
It could be. The books were saying that, they had environment suits to go into... atmospheres.
Because I just remember in Animator Darkly when they changed the temperature and the thing cracked, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because without the right temperature and pressure, it would shatter. But, they could have pressure suits.
They actually have Tholian silk suits about 100 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
So their tech is so out there that they wear silk. skin.
Oh, yeah, that's right. They mentioned Tholian silk like tons of times.
I'd recommend putting more distance between us and that ship. Now!
The other thing is the comics, the early Voyages comics, actually had some mentions of the Tholians conquering other races and using them to be basically like shock troops like the Remans. And that was kind of hinted at in A Mirror Darkly when they had the slaves, the humanoid slaves working on the Defiant.
Yeah, and here we go. Everything starts disappearing. So, yeah, I was thinking about that the second time I watched it. I'm like, did they take everything now, or did they take everything earlier?
Yeah, I think if they had taken everything earlier, it would have totally disrupted the chain of events, and no one would have any memories of anything happening, and it would have caused a paradox with them not getting the signal to rescue the stuff that they just rescued.
So the Tholians destroyed the Vulcan ship, but then, boy, you would think they would be just ticked off that they lost what they came for. They would be, they'd go ahead and finish off the Enterprise. Man, that's a great... Yeah, that's a great shot when they leave with the flashes of them going to warp. That's so awesome.
The Vulcans?
Their warp drive is damaged, but life support is stable.
Let's see if we can give them a hand. Prep shuttle pod. Have Dr. Phlox meet us in Launch Bay 1.
It is interesting that the Tholians weren't going for fatal shots on any of the ships. They were just trying to disable the Vulcan and the human ships so that they could get their prize and be gone.
That's not very Tholian of them. I would have expected them. They were like a conquering race. They didn't think that the bipeds were worth their time.
Yeah, it showed a lot of restraint on their part, actually.
I wish we'd had more time to explore that ship. Who knows how many other rooms are down there?
The only thing we didn't get in this episode that I wish we would have got was the Tholian web somehow. That would have been best. I know we get it in season 4, but is that plum soup she's eating?
Could be.
It's not purple.
That could have been cool if they had come out of warp and the Vulcan ship is in a web.
Oh, there you go.
Like just crushing it. The web is crushing it right when they come out of warp.
Yeah, like they did in season 4.
But we would have seen a complete web, completely finished, right when they come out of warp, right as the Vulcan ship crushes or something. And you don't get to see how it was made. They don't know how it was made. They just know that what is that?
Yeah. And we would
know.
Sub-Commander.
Looked like Archer was having eggs and strawberries and something. Maybe he's having breakfast for dinner. Maybe breakfast for breakfast.
I'm going to contact the High Command. Apologize for the trouble we caused them.
As the captain of the Tal'Kir pointed out, a ship can be replaced.
I also need to thank them for helping us out.
I'm sure the gesture would be appreciated.
Yeah, it's too bad we never got a follow-up on this plot. Like, we never hear anything of the events of this episode again. Like, it's such a cool episode. How does this rank highly for you guys, this episode? Like, this is my favorite Enterprise episode.
Yeah, I love all of the time travel episodes. This is a really well done one, because they don't know anything about these people that are traveling from the future, as they should. I mean, there's no reason that they should know anything about these beyond what we see in that they know here.
Yeah, I love this episode. It's got a lot of stuff going for it. You've got the Doctor Who-like ship with the spatial geometry. You've got the Tholians and the Suliban. You don't really know what's going on. It's constant action to me. There's a clock ticking. They've got a bomb disarm, rearm situation going on. So it's got a lot of stuff going on, and it even has some character development there, like earlier with Trip and Malcolm, even when they were talking about when they were working on the microtransmitter. Again, if that's a microtransmitter, what's the size of what's the big one look like? I definitely like this episode. It's just nonstop. It's like the foot on the gas kind of thing. It almost seems like there was some things maybe cut out too, like maybe edited out. Like we had like that cold open, like right away there's that ship. We didn't have any pulling into a system. Our sensors have picked up something and then it's revealed to us. We were just boom right in there on it. So it's almost like, they probably had to cut out a little bit just to make it all fit.
Well, season 2 was a little shorter than season 1. They're 42 and with credits, 42 minutes, right?
Yeah, actually, I don't know.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, 42, 53 for this episode. So, yeah, I really like this. I really like this episode. Brandon, thank you so much for suggesting this. And I know you had mentioned coming on and talking about this, but we hadn't actually done it. I hadn't thought about doing a commentary at that time. But yeah, this is a lot of fun.
Yeah, a lot of fun for me too. This is my first official commentary for Trek FM.
Yeah. So Jeff, what did you think about that episode?
I really enjoyed it. I mean, there was a lot of really good stuff going on. They did a really good job of keeping the mystery of this, individual from the future, and they don't really find anything out about this person, which they shouldn't, because even in Kirk's time, by the first season, time travel is still kind of a mystery until they figure out how to do it themselves. But by that point, they know that it's a thing, because when it happens, they're like, oh yeah, we've traveled in time. Oh, hey. It's not a big surprise that it happened. They just finally figured out a way that they can do it and repeat the process.
I completely agree. Yeah, this was fun. Fun doing a commentary. This is nice. The first of many, probably. It's been a lot of fun commenting on future tense, but this isn't the only topic we've been talking about here on Trek FM. So here's what else you may have missed elsewhere on the network.
Previously on Trek.fm, The Ready Room.
Star Trek All Access gives you a great acronym, though. STAR!
STAR, yeah.
Yes.
STAR! Yeah, the upward angle on totally get it.
To the journey! He tweets out, like, hey, walking around with my mobile emitter, hashtag blessed. It's just, I'm sure that's what he's doing.
Gosh. Yep. He's taking photos of his holographic non-dinner.
Continuing mission.
If you notice, my guest star in that one was Doug Drexler himself.
Yes.
One of the great Star Trek minds, Doug Drexler, he kind of changed the lines a little bit to actually be what he thought would have been in a Starfleet Inquest.
Saturday Morning Trek.
What I had to assure the fans when I talked at the convention or conventions was this is not going to be a kiddie show. This is not going to be a baby show. We are doing Star Trek. And we were able to do Star Trek in some ways a better way, because we could have wonderful spaceships, we could have wonderful aliens, wonderful planets, and we still had good stories.
And that's what else is happening on Trek.fm.
So check out these shows and find out what we're talking about in your favorite corner of the Star Trek universe. You can find us on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Windows Phone, and of course you can always stream or download the MP3 file from our website at trek.fm and grab the RSS link there as well. If you're an Apple user, please be sure to hit the subscribe button. That makes it easier for other listeners to find the show as they search iTunes. And if you like what you hear on Warp 5 or any of the Trek FM network shows, please leave us a star rating and a review. That'll help us greatly increase our visibility for new listeners.
And we actually have three new star reviews in the U.S. iTunes store. So, Jeff, would you read those for us, please?
Yeah, we got one from Badmiral Mike. He gave us a 5-star review, thank you very much, called Fresh Perspective. The new hosts are amazing. My wife and I are currently rewatching Enterprise, and Warp 5 is a great companion piece. Download this podcast and find out why you should be watching the most underrated Star Trek show.
Thank you very much, Badmiral Mike. They might call you Badmiral, but hey, if you like Warp 5, you can't be all that bad. Right?
That's epic. Badmiral. I love that.
From FJ Steven, we got also a 5-star review. It says, love this network. I'm a huge Star Trek fan. Just recently found Trek FM. Warp 5 covers my secret favorite series. Great hosts and a good time.
Yeah, thank you, FJ Steven. It doesn't have to be a secret. I guess it used to be my secret series, but now, no, it's not a secret anymore for me.
You loudly proclaim it from the roof.
Exactly.
Well, clearly the producers of the people responsible for making the most recent Star Trek film also love Enterprise, because there have been Enterprise references in all 3 of the Kelvin timeline films.
That is true. We also have a 5-star review. Thank you very much. From Stronger Than Zeton. And it's titled A Needed Voice for the Future. The Warp 5 podcast is a great podcast about the most underrated, yet dare I say, best Star Trek show made to date. The roundtable discussions of the exploits of the NX-01 give new life to this beloved show. I hope more people listen to this podcast and can become fans of this great show. So thank you very much, Stronger Than Zeton, for the 5-star review. And folks, that actually brings our Blu-ray review contest total up to 19 since January 1st. So thank you so much for those of you that have rated and reviewed our show since January 1st. And like the goal was to get at least 20 before September. And it looks like we're probably going to make it. I don't want to jinx us here, but it looks like we're probably going to make it. So we are definitely going to be activating that Blu-ray drawing, the Full Journey Blu-ray drawing, as soon as we get 20 or more between now and September. That would be great to give that away to a Warp 5 listener. And I actually was watching my Full Journey Blu-ray set for this commentary, and it's packed full of all the goodies that you like. It actually has a behind the scenes up for this episode. There's a 17-minute behind the scenes on how they filmed this episode on that. So it's good stuff. Another way you can help us keep all of our shows coming to you each week is become a patron of the network on Patreon. If you visit patreon.com/TrekFM, you'll find all our current goals and different milestone contribution levels, along with all the great perks we have for you. These perks include early access to content, exclusive content, producer credits, seats on our content development team, and more. We really appreciate any support you can give us and hope you'll join the team. Again, you'll find all the details at patreon.com/TrekFM. Also, if you want to wear your Trek FM fandom or lay your head on it if you want to get a pillow, you can find our great Trek FM merchandise at redbubble.com. Just type Trek FM into the search field. I always like to take this time to thank my co-associate producer, Mike Morrison. You can find Mike on the Babel Conference, Trek FM's dedicated Facebook listeners group. You can also hear Mike over on his new show, Melodic Treks, where he and Zachary Fruehling discuss all things philosophical through a Star Trek lens. And I like to give a shout out here to Christopher Jones, our Warp 5 editor and producer. Without his help and work, we can't bring this show to you. So thank you so much, Christopher.
We love you, Chris.
If you'd like to get in touch with us here at Trek FM, we can always find us on trek.fm/contact. Look at the sidebar on the show page or go to speakpipe.com/trekfm. You can also contact us through Twitter at TrekFM, Facebook at facebook.com/TrekFM. And as we've mentioned earlier, the Babel Conference, type the Babel Conference, BABEL, into the search field on Facebook or go to our website at trek.fm and click discussion on the menu bar. So thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining me here for my first commentary. It wasn't your first commentary, but I had a great time. Thank you so much, Brandon, for suggesting this.
Yeah, you're very welcome. I had a great time, and I'm glad to be on Warp 5, and hopefully this is the first of many.
That sounds good. Yeah, we'll get the schedules lined out. Maybe it won't take 6 months again or 7 months for it to happen again. Yeah, if our listeners would like to talk to you about how many other versions of the Enterprise theme song there are, how can they contact you?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at Brandon-Shea. You can find me on the Babel Conference every once in a while talking about Trek. But I'm on many, many, many episodes of our 50th anniversary rewatch project called From There to Here. And there's actually 366 days, and I'm going to be on 110 of the 366 days, so that's been a lot of fun. And by the end of the whole thing, I will have actually talked about at least one episode from every season of every show and a movie from each of the franchises. So I tried to space it out quite a bit there because I love Star Trek and all Star Trek. But the main way you can find me is here on the network with new episodes of Melodic Treks, which is all about the music of the Star Trek franchise. And my first episode on that was episode number 25, but it's been a lot of fun. I started this past January, and I love Star Trek music.
Well, thank you again, Brandon, for coming on. We hope to have you on here as soon as we can. Jeff, if our listeners would like to discuss with you the pros and cons of the 9th century future tech that we saw here on this last episode, how can they contact you?
Well, if you don't have access to an Atavachron or even a space pod that's bigger on the inside, possibly stolen, you can always find me on the Babel Conference on Facebook. I'm the co-host on the network for both Warp 5 and Standard Orbit, Trek FM's dedicated original series show. I'm also on Twitter at Harlander, and I'm a supporter of the network through Patreon. You can check out my website. It's been called The Grand Unified Theory of Star Trek at Trekopedia.com, and my independent comics at bandwidthcomics.com, or search on Facebook for Bandwidth Comics.
And if you'd like to get in touch with me, you can always find me on the Babel Conference, the Trek FM listeners page on Facebook. Yep, thank you so much, guys. It's been a real pleasure. But all this time travel stuff is kind of giving me a little bit of a headache. So I think I'm going to go talk to Phlox and maybe get a spray of something in the neck here. Jeff, why don't you take us out?
Well, thanks everyone for listening, and join us again next time for another episode of Warp 5.